Tae-ho Kim felt the ship shake again as another blast hit the hull. He grabbed the wall to keep from falling as sparks flew from the broken control panel next to him. The lights flickered and went out for a few seconds before the emergency power kicked in. Red warning lights bathed everything in an angry glow. "How much longer until the engines are back online?" Captain Haewon Park shouted from the bridge. Her voice carried down the narrow hallway where Tae-ho was working. 10 minutes, maybe 15, Tae-ho called back. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the mess of wires and burned circuits in front of him. The ship's main engine had taken a direct hit 3 hours ago. Since then, they had been limping through space on backup power while the enemy ships got closer. The cargo vessel New Seoul was not built for war. It was meant to carry supplies and people between colonies. Now it was the only thing standing, between 847 human refugees and certain death. The ship groaned as another blast shook it from side to side. Tae-ho's hands moved quickly over the damaged systems. He had been fixing engines since he was 12 years old. His father had taught him before the war started, before everything changed, before the Dominion came and turned their peaceful galaxy into a nightmare. "They're getting closer," someone yelled from the bridge. Through the small window in the hallway, Tae-ho could see the dark shapes of enemy ships. They looked like giant, black insects against the stars. The Dominion hunters were fast and deadly. They had already destroyed the 3 escort ships that were supposed to protect the New Seoul. Tae-ho connected 2 more wires and watched a green light flicker on. Good. The main power was coming back. But would it be enough? The engines were badly damaged. Even if he got them working, they would not run for long. "Tae-ho, we need those engines now." Captain Park's voice was getting desperate. "Almost there," he replied. His fingers were bleeding from handling the sharp metal pieces, but he did not stop. Behind him, he could hear crying from the passenger areas, families with children, old people, all of them running from worlds that no longer existed. The Dominion did not just conquer planets, they destroyed them. Every human colony in this part of the galaxy was gone now, burned to ash. The people on this ship were some of the last humans alive. Another blast hit the ship, stronger than before. The lights went out completely this time. In the darkness, Tae-ho heard something crack that was not good. He fumbled for his emergency light and turned it on. The crack was in the hull. Not big yet, but getting bigger. Air was starting to leak out. At this rate, they had maybe an hour before the ship broke apart completely. "Captain," Tae-ho called out, "we have a hull breach in Section 7. "I know," she called back. "The automated systems are trying to seal it, but they're not working properly." Everything was falling apart. Tae-ho looked at his hands in the light. They were shaking. He was scared. They all were. But someone had to keep trying. Someone had to keep fighting until the very end. He connected the last wire and held his breath. A low hum filled the air. The engines were working again. Not at full power, but working. "Engines are online," he shouted. "Thank you," Captain Park replied. "Hold on, everyone." Tae-ho felt the ship move forward. It was not fast, but it was moving. Maybe they could outrun the hunters. Maybe they could find somewhere safe to hide. But as he looked out the window, his heart sank. The enemy ships were still getting closer, and there were more of them now. At least a dozen black shapes moving through space like sharks smelling blood. "Captain," came a voice over the ship's radio. It was calm and cold. "This is Admiral Krex of the Dominion Third Fleet. You are carrying illegal refugees. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." Captain Park's voice came over the ship's speakers. "This is Captain Haewon Park of the Earth vessel New Seoul. We are carrying civilians, families, children. They have done nothing wrong. All humans are enemies of the Dominion," the alien voice replied. "You have 10 seconds to stop your engines." Tae-ho felt his stomach turn cold. He had heard stories about what happened when the Dominion captured humans. They did not just kill them quickly. They used them for experiments. They kept them alive for months while they studied how human bodies worked, how human minds broke. "We will not surrender," Captain Park said. Her voice was steady and strong. "Then you will die," the alien replied. The enemy ships opened fire. Bright red beams of energy shot across space. The new soul shook as the blast hit its shields, but the shields were already weak from the earlier attacks. They would not hold for long. Tejo ran toward the bridge. He had to help somehow. But as he reached the main corridor, he stopped. Through the big window that showed the space ahead of them, he saw something impossible. Another ship was approaching, but this one was different. It was not black and sharp, like the Dominion ships. It was smooth and white, almost like it was made of pearl. It moved gracefully through space, almost like it was swimming. "What is that?" someone on the bridge asked. "I don't know," Captain Park replied. "It's not in any of our databases." The strange white ship moved between the New Soul and the Dominion hunters. It was much smaller than the enemy ships, but it did not run away. Instead, it sent a message. The voice that came through the radio was unlike anything Tejo had ever heard. It was soft and musical, almost like singing. But somehow, the words were in Korean. "Human vessel, we see your need. We will help." "Who are you?" Captain Park asked. "We are Keth Mari. We mean no harm." Admiral Krex's voice cut through the radio. "Unknown vessel, move away immediately. This is Dominion business." "We do not recognize your authority here," the musical voice replied. What happened next made Tejo's eyes go wide. The white ship began to glow, not with the harsh light of weapons, but with something softer, something alive. The glow spread out like wings, and suddenly the small ship did not look small anymore. The Dominion ships fired at it. Their red energy beams struck the glowing wings, but instead of destroying the white ship, the beams seemed to bounce off harmlessly. Then the white ship fired back. But its weapons were not like anything Tejo had seen before. Instead of energy beams, it shot what looked like streams of liquid light. When the light hit the Dominion ships, they did not explode. They simply stopped working. Their lights went out, and they began to drift through space. "Impossible," Admiral Krex's voice said over the radio. But now he sounded worried instead of confident. The battle did not last long. The white ship moved through the Dominion hunters like a dancer, its streams of light touching each enemy vessel. One by one, they went dark and still, but there were too many of them. Even as the white ship fought, more Dominion vessels were arriving, bigger ones, and the New Soul's engines were starting to fail again. "Human vessel," the musical voice said. "Your engines are damaged beyond repair. We must act quickly." "What do you mean?" Captain Park asked. "We will save who we can." Before anyone could reply, a beam of soft blue light shot from the white ship to the New Soul. But this was not a weapon. Tejo felt a strange tingling sensation as the light passed over him. Then everything began to glow around him. "What's happening?" he called out. "We are bringing you to safety," the voice replied. "But we can only take one." "One?" Captain Park's voice was full of panic. "There are 800 people on this ship." "We are sorry, our ship is small, we can save one life." Tejo felt himself getting lighter. The blue light was lifting him off the ground. Around him he could see other people reaching out, trying to grab the light. But it was only touching him. "No," he shouted. "Take someone else. Take the children." "You are the engineer," the voice replied. "You have the knowledge we need, the knowledge that might save others." "I won't leave them." Tejo struggled against the light, but it was no use. He was floating now, moving toward the wall where a hole had opened up. Through the hole he could see the inside of the white ship. It looked like the inside of a shell, all curves and soft light. "Tejo!" Captain Park called out. Remember what happened here." "I will," he called back. "I promise I will." The blue light pulled him through the hole, and suddenly he was inside the alien ship. The hole sealed behind him, and he could no longer see the New Soul. But through another window he watched as the Dominion ship surrounded the human vessel. "Please," he said to the empty air. "Go back for them. Save them too." "We cannot," the musical voice replied. "We are sorry." The New Soul exploded in a flash of white light. For a moment it was brighter than the nearby star. Then there was nothing but empty space and drifting pieces of metal. Tejo fell to his knees. 847 people. Families he had known since childhood. Friends he had grown up with. Captain Park. who had been like a mother to him after his parents died. All gone. Why? He whispered. Why did you save me and not them? Because, the voice replied. Sometimes saving one can lead to saving many others. Tejo did not understand what that meant. All he knew was that he was alone, the last survivor of New Soul, the last witness to their courage. But as the white ship carried him away from the battlefield, something inside him began to burn. Not with despair, but with purpose. The aliens who had saved him said he had knowledge they needed, knowledge that might save others. If that was true, then he would use it. He would find a way to make the Dominion pay for what? 3 months had passed since the New Soul died in space. 3 months since Tejo had watched everyone he knew disappear in a flash of light. Now he stood in a garden that should not exist. The plants around him glowed softly in colors he had never seen before. Blue flowers that sang when the wind touched them. Trees with silver bark that felt warm to the touch. Above him 3 moons hung in a purple sky, and he could see the rings of a distant planet through the crystal dome that covered the garden. This was Shalthis, the hidden world of the Kethmari, and somehow it had become his home. You look sad again, a voice said behind him. Tejo turned to see Gina O walking toward him. She was Kethmari, but she had chosen a human name when she became his translator. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were large and silver with no pupils. When she smiled, which she did often, her whole face lit up. I was thinking about them, Tejo said. He did this every day at this time. Came to the garden and remembered the faces of the people who had died. Gina nodded. We feel your pain, she said quietly. All of us do. That was something Tejo was still getting used to. The Kethmari were empaths. They could feel the emotions of everyone around them. When he was sad, they were sad too. When he was angry, they felt his anger as if it was their own. I'm sorry, he said. I know it hurts you when I think about it. Do not be sorry, Gina replied. She reached out and touched his arm. Her hand was warm, and he felt some of his sadness fade away. Your pain reminds us why we must act. Why we cannot hide anymore. For thousands of years, the Kethmari had stayed hidden on their secret world. They had watched the galaxy change around them, but they had never gotten involved in wars or politics. Their empathic abilities made them feel everyone's suffering, so they had decided it was better to stay away. But Tejo's arrival had changed something in them. The council is meeting again today, Gina said. Elder Mordeth wants to speak with you. Tejo nodded. The Kethmari High Council had been debating for weeks about what to do next. Some wanted to send him to a safe world where he could live, in peace. Others thought they should contact what remained of human civilization and try to help. But there was a third group, led by Elder Mordeth, that wanted to do something much more dangerous. They walked through the crystal corridors of the main city. Everything here was grown rather than built. The walls curved like the inside of shells, and soft light came from plants embedded in the ceiling. Other Kethmari passed them, moving with the graceful steps of their people. Many nodded to Tejo as he went by. In 3 months, he had become something of a curiosity to them. The first human most of them had ever seen. The council chamber was in the heart of the city. It was a large round room with a dome that showed the stars above. 12 elders sat in chairs that looked like they had grown from the floor. In the center, Elder Mordeth stood waiting. Mordeth was old even by Kethmari standards. His skin was almost white, and his silver eyes held centuries of wisdom. When he looked at Tejo, the human felt like all his secrets were being gently examined. Tejo Kim, the elder said. His voice was musical like all Kethmari voices, but deeper. We have been learning much from the information you shared with us. Over the past months, Tejo had told them everything he knew about human technology, about the war with the Dominion, and about the other species that had been conquered or destroyed. The Kethmari had listened to it all and had been quietly investigating. What did you find? Tejo asked. The situation is worse than we thought, Mordeth replied. The Dominion has not just conquered most of the galaxy, they have enslaved it. Entire species work in their factories and mines. Others are used for experiments or as food. Tejo felt sick. He had suspected this, but hearing it confirmed made it real. But we also found something else, the elder continued. There are others still fighting. Humans, yes, but also survivors, from dozens of species. They are scattered and weak, but they have not given up hope. Gina stepped forward. We intercepted a transmission 2 days ago. It was coded, but we managed to translate it. There is a human resistance leader named Dong-hyun Lee. He commands something called the Ghost Battalion. They are hiding in the asteroid fields near the Centauri system. Tejo's heart began to beat faster. Other humans were still alive, still fighting. There are others too, Mordeth said. A former Earth admiral named Sujin Choi leads a fleet of refugee ships. The cybernetic species called the Nexhari have a small colony that the Dominion has not found yet. The Velnari still control 3 star systems in the Outer Rim. So many survivors, Tejo whispered. We could contact them, bring them together. Yes, Mordeth agreed. But that is not all we discovered. The elder waved his hand, and the dome above them changed. Instead of showing stars, it now showed an image of a massive space station. The station was dark and covered in spikes. Ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This is Zarian Prime, Mordeth said. The Dominion's main processing facility in this sector. We sent a stealth probe to investigate. The image zoomed in, and Tejo saw something that made his blood run cold. The spikes on the station were not decorations, they were cables. And the cables led to thousands of small pods attached to the station's hull. What are those? He asked, though part of him already knew. Prison pods, Gina said quietly. Each one contains a living being from a conquered species. The Dominion is using them as power sources. Power sources? Neural energy, Mordeth explained. The suffering and fear of the prisoners generates a kind of psychic energy. The Dominion harvests this energy to power their ships and weapons. The more their victims suffer, the stronger the Dominion becomes. Tejo staggered backward. It was worse than he had imagined. The Dominion was not just conquering the galaxy. They were feeding on the pain of everyone they captured. How many? He asked. At Zarian Prime alone? Nearly 1 million beings, Mordeth replied. And there are dozens of stations like this throughout. Dominion space? We have to free them, Tejo said immediately. Yes, Mordeth agreed. We do. There was something in the elder's voice that made Tejo look at him more closely. You've already decided, haven't you? The council has voted. We have, Mordeth confirmed. For the first time in our history, the Kethmari will go to war. Another elder, younger than Mordeth, stood up. Many of us still think this is wrong, she said. We are a peaceful people. We have survived by staying hidden. If we reveal ourselves, the Dominion will find us. They will destroy our world, just as they destroyed yours. Elder Silana speaks for nearly half the council. Mordeth admitted. But the other half believes that hiding while billions suffer is not survival. It is cowardice. What changed your minds? Tejo asked. Gina smiled sadly. You did, she said. Living with your pain for 3 months has shown us what it means to lose everything you love. We cannot feel that and do nothing. But we are not warriors, Elder Solana continued. Our ships are designed for exploration and defense. We have no weapons that can match the Dominion fleet. No, Mordeth agreed. But we have something else. We have the ability to feel what others feel, to understand them completely, and we have learned much about combining different technologies. He gestured to Tejo. Your human engineering skills combined with our biotechnology have already produced interesting results. Over the past month, Tejo had been working with Kethmari scientists to repair their damaged ships, but the work had become something more. Human mechanical systems and Kethmari organic technology seemed to work well together. The hybrid systems they had created were more powerful than either technology alone. You want to contact the other survivors, Tejo said. Bring them all together. More than that, Mordeth replied. We want to offer them our technology. our worlds, our resources. Together, we might be able to build something the galaxy has never seen before. A true alliance, Gina added. Not conquest like the Dominion practices, but cooperation. Each species contributing what they do best. Tai-Ho thought about it. The idea was ambitious beyond anything he could have imagined. Dozens of different species, all working together against a common enemy. It seemed impossible. But then he remembered the explosion of the new soul. The faces of the people who had died believing their sacrifice meant something. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. Mordeth smiled. "Help us contact them. Your knowledge of human communication systems, combined with our long-range sensors, should allow us to reach the scattered resistance groups. And then? Then we see if hope is stronger than fear." Elder Silana spoke up again. "Even if this works, even if we can bring the survivors together, the Dominion is still too strong. They have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, and every victory they achieve makes them more powerful." "True," Mordeth agreed, "but they have one weakness. They rule through fear and domination. They have never faced an enemy that fights through cooperation and choice." "You think that will be enough?" Tai-Ho asked. "I think," Mordeth replied, "that 847 humans died believing that one life saved could make a difference. Let us find out if they were right." As they began to plan their first contact with the human resistance, Tai-Ho felt something he had not experienced in 3 months. Hope. It was small and fra. The message reached Dong-Hyun Lee while he was sleeping in his command chair aboard the resistance ship Defiance. The soft beeping of the communication system woke him from dreams of burning planets and dead friends. He had learned to sleep wherever he could find a moment of peace. In the 2 years since Earth fell, peaceful moments were rare. "Commander," his communications officer called out. "You need to hear this." Dong-Hyun rubbed his eyes and looked around the bridge. The Ghost Battalion lived on ships now, always moving, always hiding. The Defiance was old and scarred from dozens of battles, but it was home to 300 human survivors. "What is it, Min-Ho?" Dong-Hyun asked. "A transmission on the old Earth defense frequency," Min-Ho replied. "But sir, it's impossible. The signal is coming from outside known space. Pirates? No, sir. The encryption is military grade, but it's not Dominion. And Commander..." Min-Ho paused. "The voice says he's human." Dong-Hyun sat up straight. Any human transmission these days could be a trap. The Dominion sometimes used captured humans to lure resistance groups into ambushes. But they had to check, put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was definitely human. Young, male, with the accent of the outer colonies. But what he was saying made no sense. "This is Tai-Ho Kim of the New Soul, broadcasting to any human resistance forces. I am currently aboard a Kethmari vessel in uncharted space. I repeat, I am with allies who want to help. Please respond." "New Soul?" Min-Ho said. "That ship was destroyed 3 months ago. Everyone aboard was killed." "I know," Dong-Hyun replied. "I knew Captain Park, good woman." He thought for a moment. This could still be a trap, but something about the voice sounded genuine. "Open a channel." "This is Commander Dong-Hyun Lee of the Ghost Battalion," he said. "If you're really Tai-Ho, Kim, prove it. Tell me something only a New Soul survivor would know." There was a pause. Then the voice came back, sadder now. "Captain Park had a picture of her daughter on her desk. The girl was maybe 8 years old, holding a model spaceship. Park told me her daughter wanted to be an engineer like me when she grew up." Another pause. "The girl died when the Dominion hit Busan colony." Dong-Hyun closed his eyes. That was not information the Dominion would have. "How did you survive the destruction of New Soul?" "Aliens saved me. The Kethmari. They could only take one person." The voice was full of pain. "I watched everyone else die." "Where are you now?" "Safe. The Kethmari have a hidden world. They want to help us fight the Dominion." Around the bridge, Dong-Hyun's officers were looking at each other with expressions of disbelief. Aliens helping humans? After 2 years of running and hiding, It seemed too good to be true. What kind of help? Donghyun asked. Technology, ships, a place to gather other survivors. Commander, they've been monitoring Dominion communications. There are others still fighting, humans and non-humans. The Kethmari want to bring us all together. And what do they want in return? To stop the Dominion from enslaving the galaxy. Far, across the galaxy, Admiral Sujin Choi was having a similar conversation aboard her flagship, the Hope of Earth. Her refugee fleet consisted of 37 ships from 12 different species, all survivors of the Dominion's expansion. They had been running for 8 months, moving from system to system, always staying ahead of the hunter fleets. Kethmari? She said, after listening to Taeho's message. I've never heard of them. Her science officer, a reptilian being called Veltar from the conquered world of Theta Prime, checked his databases. No records, Admiral, but the transmission technology is unlike anything I've seen. Very advanced. Could be a trap, said her tactical officer, Jin Woo Nam. He was one of the few human military officers who had survived Earth's fall. Possibly, Sujin agreed. But we're running out of options. Our fuel supplies are nearly gone, and the Dominion is closing in. If these Kethmari are real and they can help, she made her decision. Open a channel. The response came immediately. Admiral Choi, this is Taeho Kim. The Kethmari have been tracking your fleet. They know you're in danger. What kind of danger? Long-range sensors show 3 Dominion hunter groups converging on your position. They'll reach you in 18 hours. Sujin felt ice in her stomach. They had been so careful to cover their tracks. How had the Dominion found them? The Kethmari can help, Taeho continued. They have stealth technology that can hide your entire fleet. But you need to come to the coordinates I'm sending now. Those coordinates are in unexplored space, Veltar reported. I know how it sounds, Taeho said. But Admiral, I know you. You served with my uncle, Captain Kim Jae-sung, during the border wars. He used to say you were the best tactical mind in the Earth fleet. Sujin remembered Captain Kim. A good man who had died defending a civilian evacuation convoy in the early days of the war. If this was really his nephew, send the coordinates, she said. While the human fleets were receiving their messages, similar transmissions were going out across the galaxy. The Thakari, a warrior species that had been nearly wiped out by the Dominion, received an offer of new weapons technology. The cybernetic Nexhari were told about a plan to free millions of enslaved beings. The peaceful Velnari learned that their shield technology could help protect refugee fleets. Each message was personal. Each showed knowledge that only came from careful study and genuine care. The Kethmari had been watching the galaxy's survivors for months, learning about them, understanding their needs. But not all the responses were positive. It's a trap, declared General Caxthor of the Thakari remnant. The Dominion is using our own hopes against us. Perhaps, replied his advisor, Warsinger Velna. But what if it's not? What if there really are allies out there? Then we will meet them with weapons ready, Caxthor decided. On the Kethmari, world of Shalthis, Taeho and Gina monitored the responses from a crystal chamber deep inside the capital city. Holographic displays showed the positions of dozens of survivor groups scattered across the galaxy. 17 positive responses so far, Gina reported. But many are suspicious. Can you blame them? Taeho asked. They've been hunted for years. Trusting anyone is dangerous. Elder Mordeth entered the chamber, his expression grave. We have a problem, he said. Our deep space sensors have detected increased Dominion activity. They know something is happening. How is that possible? Taeho asked. The transmissions, Gina realized. Even with our encryption, sending so many messages across such distances must have created detectable patterns. The Dominion is mobilizing hunter fleets in 12 sectors, Mordeth confirmed. They're moving to intercept any ships that might be responding to our messages. Taeho felt panic rising in his chest. By trying to help the survivors, they had put them all in greater danger. We have to warn them, he said. Already done, Mordeth replied. But some groups are too far away to reach safety in time. Then we go get them, Taeho said. Our ships are not designed for combat, Gina protested. Then we make them ready for combat, Tejo replied. You said my engineering knowledge combined with your biotechnology creates better systems. Let's prove it. Over the next 6 hours, something unprecedented happened on Shalthis. The peaceful Kethmari began preparing for war. In the bio shipyards, hybrid vessels took shape. Kethmari, organic hulls that could repair themselves, powered by human-designed engines that burned twice as hot. Living armor that adapted to enemy. Weapons, controlled by human tactical computers. Tejo worked alongside Kethmari engineers he had trained, his hands covered in the biogel that helped bond mechanical and organic systems. They were creating something new, something that had never existed before. Will it work? Asked Rindal, the chief Kethmari scientist. I don't know, Tejo admitted, but we're about to find out. The first test came 12 hours later. Commander Donghyun Lee's Ghost Battalion was under attack in the Vega system. 3 Dominion hunter ships had found them despite their best efforts to hide. Hang on, Commander, Tejo said over the communication link. Help is coming. What? Help? Donghyun replied. His ship was shaking under enemy fire. There's nobody else out here. Look again. From the depths of space, 3 Kethmari vessels appeared. They moved like living things, graceful and fluid. When the Dominion ships fired at them, the energy beams seemed to bend around their hulls. Impossible, one of the Dominion captains said over the radio. The Kethmari ships returned fire, but instead of energy weapons, they launched what looked like streams of silver liquid. When the liquid struck the Dominion vessels, it spread across their hulls like water. Within seconds, the enemy ships' weapons stopped working. Their engines died. Their life support systems failed. What did you do to them? Donghyun asked. Nanobiological disruptors, Tejo explained. They shut down mechanical systems by mimicking organic decay. The crews are alive, but their ships are dead. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Kethmari rescue fleets appeared wherever survivor groups were in danger. Each victory taught them more about combining their technologies. Each battle made their hybrid systems stronger. But the real revelation came when Admiral Sujin Choi's fleet reached the rendezvous coordinates. What they found there was not a hidden world, but a gathering unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all working together. Human vessels. The Liberation Front struck 17 systems at the same time. It was the largest coordinated attack in galactic history, and for the first time in decades, the Dominion was caught completely off guard. Kyungmin Park piloted his fighter through the chaos above Zirian Prime. His ship was a marvel of hybrid technology, a human-designed frame powered by Kethmari bioengines with Thakari weapons and Velnari shields. It moved through space like a living thing, responding to his thoughts as much as his controls. Ghost Leader, this is Phoenix Squadron, he called into his radio. We have visual on the processing station. Copy that, Phoenix, came the reply, from Commander Donghyun Lee. Stay sharp. Intel says there are over 1 million prisoners on that thing. Kyungmin looked at the massive station ahead of him. It was even worse than the images had shown. Thousands of prisoner pods covered its surface like a disease. Each pod contained a living being whose suffering powered the Dominion war machine. All fighters, begin your attack runs. Admiral Sujin Choi's voice came over the fleet channel. Remember, this is a rescue mission first. We save lives, then we destroy their ability to take more. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of the traditional ship-to-ship combat that had defined warfare for centuries, this was something new. The Liberation Front fought as one organism, each species contributing its strengths while covering the weaknesses of others. Thakari heavy cruisers absorbed enemy fire while Kethmari bioships slipped through the defenses like ghosts. Human fighters danced between the larger vessels, their pilots' quick thinking and adaptability confusing Dominion tactical computers. Velnari hospital ships waited at safe distances, ready to treat rescued prisoners. But the most important work was being done by teams of engineers and soldiers who were boarding the processing station itself. Tejo moved through the dark corridors of Zarian Prime with a mixed team of rescuers. Gina was beside him, her empathic abilities helping them locate clusters of prisoners. Behind them came Xiong Ho Jung, a former Earth Marine, and Velkara, a Thakari warrior whose people had suffered in places like this. "I can feel them," Gina whispered. Her silver eyes were wide with pain. So much suffering. How could anyone do this to living beings? "Because they don't see them as living beings," Teho replied. "To the Dominion, everything else is just fuel for their empire." They reached a control room where dozens of monitoring stations tracked the status of prisoner pods. The screens showed vital signs, stress levels, neural energy output. Each number represented a life being slowly consumed for power. "Can you shut it down?" Xiongho asked. Teho studied the alien technology. The Dominion used biomechanical systems similar to the Kathmari, but twisted for cruelty instead of harmony. "Not shut down," he said, "but I can reverse it. Instead of draining energy from the prisoners, we can feed energy back to them." "Do it," Velkara growled. Her species' warrior code demanded vengeance for such cruelties. Teho's fingers moved over the controls. His months of working with Kathmari biotechnology had taught him how organic and mechanical systems connected. He began rerouting the energy flows, turning the station's own power back on itself. Across Xerion Prime, prisoner pods began to glow with healing light instead of draining darkness. Beings who had been unconscious for months began to wake up. The station's power levels dropped as energy went to healing instead of weapons. "It's working," Gina said. She was smiling through her tears. "I can feel them getting stronger." But their success had not gone unnoticed. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors as Dominion soldiers moved to stop them. "Company coming," Xiongho warned, raising his rifle. The Dominion troops that appeared were not like the species they had enslaved. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that showed no emotion. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single machine. The battle in the corridors was fierce but brief. Thakari strength met Dominion precision, while human adaptability and Kathmari biotechnology turned the station's own systems against its defenders. But even as they fought, Taiho kept working. More and more prisoner pods came online, their occupants beginning to recover. Soon, rescued beings were helping with the rescue efforts, using their knowledge of the station to guide liberation teams to other sections. Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On 17 worlds, Liberation Front forces were freeing millions of enslaved beings. Each success weakened the Dominion's power base, while adding new allies to the growing rebellion. But the Dominion was not going to surrender without a fight. Supreme Admiral Krexmoth commanded the Dominion response from his flagship, the Eternal Darkness. He had ruled this sector of the galaxy for 3 centuries, and he had never seen anything like the coordinated attack unfolding around him. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, Supreme Admiral. Our sensors detect at least 3,000 vessels, but many are using stealth technology we cannot penetrate." 3,000? Krexmoth could hardly believe it. Where had so many enemies come from? What about their composition? "Mixed fleet, sir. We're seeing designs from dozens of species, some we don't recognize. They're using hybrid technologies that don't match any known military doctrine." Krexmoth studied the tactical displays. The ESA enemy fleet was not fighting like any opponent he had faced before. Instead of seeking to destroy Dominion forces, they seemed focused on rescue and liberation. They would attack just long enough to free prisoners, then withdraw before taking heavy casualties. They're not trying to conquer territory, he realized. They're trying to save lives. "Sir, send word to all Dominion fleets. Emergency mobilization. I want every available ship converged on this sector within 48 hours. Supreme Admiral, that will leave our other territories undefended." "There won't be other territories if we don't stop this rebellion here," Krexmoth replied. "These enemies are different. They're not fighting for conquest or resources. They're fighting for hope, and hope is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy." As the Liberation Front celebrated their victories, they had no idea of the storm that was gathering against them. The Dominion was pulling forces from across their empire, assembling the largest fleet in galactic history. But they were learning too. Mi Young-bae had been an intelligence analyst for Earth defense before the war. Now she worked with Kethmari empaths and Nexhari computers to process the enormous amount of information flowing from their operations. "We're seeing patterns in the Dominion response," she reported to the Liberation Front command staff. "They're not just angry, they're afraid." "Afraid of what?" Admiral Sujin Choi asked. "Of losing control," Taeho replied. He had been studying the rescued prisoners, learning about the Dominion's methods. Their entire system depends on fear and suffering. If people stop being afraid, if they start believing they can be free, the whole empire falls apart. Elder Mordeth nodded from his position at the holographic display. "Our empathic readings confirm this. The Dominion soldiers we've captured show a kind of psychic dependence on the fear of their victims. When that fear is removed, they become confused, disoriented. So we keep removing it," Commander Dong-hyun Lee said. "Every person we free, every world we liberate makes them weaker." "But they're mobilizing everything against us," Mi Young warned. "Long-range sensors show massive fleet movements. They're bringing ships from every corner of their territory." "How many?" Sujin asked. "At least 10,000 vessels. Maybe more." A silence fell over the command center. The Liberation Front had grown rapidly, but they still only had about 4,000 ships, and most of those were converted civilian vessels or lightly armed scouts. "We can't match them in a straight fight," Jin Woo-nam observed. "Then we don't fight straight," Taeho said. "The Dominion thinks like an empire. Centralized command, overwhelming force, fear-based control, but we're not an empire." "What are we?" Gina asked. "We're a family," Taeho replied. "Every species, every ship, every person working together because they choose to, not because they're forced to." He looked around the room at the representatives of dozens of species, humans and Kethmari, Thakari warriors and Velnari healers, cybernetic Nexhari and dozens of others, all united not by conquest but by choice. "The Dominion's strength is also its weakness," he continued. "They rule through fear, but that means they don't understand cooperation. They see the galaxy as something to be controlled, not as a community to be nurtured." "You have a plan," Elder Mordeth observed. "I have an idea," Taeho corrected. "Remember how we built our hybrid ships? Different technologies working together, creating something stronger than the sum of its parts?" "Yes. What if we could do that with entire civilizations? Not just our military forces, but everyone. Every freed slave, every refugee, every survivor, all working together toward the same goal." Admiral Sujin Choi looked skeptical. "That's a beautiful thought, but how do you coordinate millions of beings across thousands of star systems?" Taeho smiled and looked at Gina. "With empathy. The Kethmari can feel what others feel. What if we could extend that? Create a network of understanding that connects every member of the Liberation Front? A psychic link?" Mi Young asked. "Is that even possible?" The Kethmari. The final battle began in the Tharagul system, where the Dominion had built their most terrible weapon. The device was called the Soul Harvester, and it could drain the life force from every living being within 1,000 light-years. If the Dominion could not rule the galaxy, they would make sure no one else could either. Young Su-han stood on the bridge of the Unity's heart, the largest Kethmari bioship ever grown. Around him, 50,000 Liberation Front vessels waited in perfect formation. But they were facing a Dominion fleet of nearly 100,000 ships, led by Supreme Admiral Krexmoth himself. "All stations report ready," announced Nara Song, from her position at the communications center. The empathic network that Taeho had proposed was now reality. Through Kethmari abilities amplified by Nexhari computers, every person in the Liberation Front could feel what every other person felt. They moved as one mind with millions of bodies. "Taeho, what's the status of the strike team?" Young Su asked. Deep inside the Dominion fortress that housed the Soul Harvester, Taeho moved through corridors that pulsed with stolen life energy. His team included Woo Jin Yoon, a human demolitions expert, and Gina, whose empathic abilities could guide them through the psychic maze protecting the weapon. "We're almost there," Tejo replied through the neural link. Every member of the Liberation Front could hear him, could feel his determination and his fear. "The weapon is more horrible than we imagined. It's not just going to kill everyone in the galaxy. It's going to make them suffer while they die, feeding on their pain until the very end." Through the empathic network, millions of beings felt Tejo's revulsion at what he was seeing. The Soul Harvester was a crystalline structure the size of a small moon, fed by conduits that carried the suffering of billions of enslaved minds. It was the ultimate expression of Dominion philosophy, power through the pain of others. "Can you stop it?" Young-Su asked. "Maybe," Tejo replied, "but I'll need time. Can you keep the fleet busy?" "We'll keep them more than busy," came the voice of Admiral Sujin Choi from her flagship. "All vessels, this is it. Everything we fought for comes down to the next hour." The space battle that followed was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. 150,000 ships engaged in combat across an area larger than most solar systems. But this was not the chaotic warfare of the past. Through the empathic network, the Liberation Front fought with perfect coordination. Human pilots felt the tactical insights of Thakari warriors. Kethmari bioships shared their healing abilities with damaged allied vessels. Velnari shield technology protected everyone, while Nexhari computers coordinated attacks with millisecond precision. But the Dominion had advantages too. Their ships were individually more powerful, and their crews felt no fear or doubt. They fought with the cold efficiency of a machine designed for one purpose: total domination. "They're breaking through our left flank," reported Commander Dong-hyun Lee from the Ghost Battalion. His ships were engaged with a Dominion assault group that seemed impossible to stop. "Help is coming," Young-Su replied. Through the neural network, he could coordinate reinforcements instantly. Kethmari vessels flowed through space like living things, their organic hulls adapting to enemy fire while their hybrid weapons struck back. But even with perfect coordination, the Liberation Front was outnumbered, slowly, steadily. They were being pushed back toward the fortress world. Inside the Soul Harvester, Tejo worked frantically at the weapons control systems. The technology was a horrifying fusion of every enslaved species' knowledge, twisted into an instrument of galactic genocide. "I can't shut it down," he reported. "The system is too complex and it's protected by the psychic energy of all the enslaved minds powering it." "What do you need?" Gina asked. She was beside him, her empathic abilities letting her feel the agony of millions of prisoners trapped within the weapon. "More power," Tejo said. "If I could reverse the energy flow like we did at Xerion Prime, turn the weapon against itself, but the scale is enormous. I'd need the psychic energy of every free mind in the galaxy." Through the neural network, his words reached everyone. Every pilot dodging enemy fire, every engineer keeping damaged ships running, every refugee who had lost their home to Dominion cruelty. "You have it," came the voice of Elder Mordeth from the Kethmari homeworld. "Every member of the Liberation Front, every free being in the galaxy. We give you our strength freely." What happened next had never occurred in galactic history. Through the empathic network, millions of minds joined together in common purpose. Not forced unity like the Dominion practiced, but chosen cooperation. Every species, every individual, contributing their unique strengths to a single goal. Tejo felt their combined will flowing through him, the determined courage of human pilots, the warrior pride of Thakari soldiers, the healing compassion of Kethmari empaths, the analytical precision of Nexhari computers, the protective strength of Velnari defenders. All of it focused through one person, one mind, one choice made in memory of 847 people who had died believing their sacrifice meant something. The Soul Harvester began to change. Instead of draining life from the galaxy, it started to restore it. The stolen energy of billions of enslaved minds flowed backward through the system, returning to their rightful owners. Across Dominion space, slave processing stations shut, down as their power sources were reclaimed. Impossible, Supreme Admiral Krexmoth said from his flagship bridge. He watched as his entire fleet began to lose power. Without the stolen psychic energy that fueled their weapons and shields, Dominion ships were just hollow shells. Nothing is impossible when people choose to work together, Young-Su replied over the communication channel. The Liberation Front. Fleet was glowing now, powered not by stolen energy but by the freely given strength of every person aboard. The battle turned in minutes. Dominion ships that had seemed unstoppable were now defenseless. But the Liberation Front did not destroy them. Instead, they used their own transport technology to beam the Dominion crews to safety. Why? Krexmoth demanded as his own ship was surrounded. Why spare us? We would not spare you. Because that's the difference between us, Admiral Sujin Choi replied. You rule through fear and pain. We choose hope and healing. On the fortress, world, Taeho completed his work. The Soul Harvester was now the Soul Restorer, sending waves of healing energy across the galaxy. Worlds that had been dead for centuries began to bloom again. Species that had been enslaved for generations felt freedom for the first time. It's done, he announced through the neural network. The weapon is destroyed and the healing has begun. But as he stood in the chamber where the galaxy's most terrible weapon had been turned into its greatest hope, Taeho felt something unexpected. The empathic network that connected all the free minds of the galaxy was not fading. If anything, it was growing stronger. What's happening? Gina asked. I think, Taeho said slowly, we've created something new. Not just an alliance or a federation, but a true galactic community. Everyone connected, everyone equal, everyone free to choose their own path. 6 months later, Hyo Jin-Kwan stood before the Galactic Liberation Council on the restored world of Tharagul Prime. She had been elected president of the New Earth government, but more importantly, she was one of the representatives helping to build something that had never existed before. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. The war is over, she announced to the gathering of thousands of species. But our work is just beginning. We have the chance to build a galaxy where no one rules over anyone else, where every being has the right to choose their own destiny. The applause that followed could be felt through the empathic network that now connected every world. Humans and Kethmari, Thakari and Velnari, Nexhari and hundreds of other species all joined in celebration of what they had accomplished together. Later, as the celebration continued, Taeho found himself in a quiet garden overlooking the capital city. The plants here were new hybrids, combinations of flora from a dozen different worlds growing together in impossible beauty. Do you think they would be proud? Gina asked, joining him on the overlook. Taeho knew she was talking about the crew of the New Soul, the 847 people whose sacrifice had started this incredible journey. I think, he said, they would be amazed. One person, saved, leading to the salvation of the entire galaxy. Not just saved, Gina corrected. Chosen. You were chosen to carry their memory, their hope, their belief that one life could make a difference. Above them, the sky was filled with ships, from every corner of the galaxy, all flying in perfect harmony. The empathic network let their crews share not just tactical information, but emotions, dreams, hopes for the future. It was not the end of challenges. Building a galactic civilization based on freedom and choice would take generations. There would be disagreements, conflicts, problems no one had ever imagined, but they would face those challenges together as equals, as family. Admiral Kim, a voice said behind them. Taeho turned to see a young human woman in a Liberation Front uniform. The memorial service is ready. Taeho nodded and followed her to a hillside outside the city. There, carved in stone from every world in the galaxy, stood a monument to all those who had